Attention Talking Simpsons listeners, we have a special mini-series just for you.
We're going through the entire first season of King of the Hill, and you can only hear it if you're a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
We're giving the Talking Simpsons treatment to all 13 episodes of King of the Hill's first season, and if you want a free sample, you'll find the first episode available for free in the Talking Simpsons feed. Patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. It's the only place you'll find the first season of Talk King of the Hill.
Made you go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
Why, hello, everybody. It's Henry Gilbert in here at the start. I'm back from PAX, but Bob is still having some fun in Seattle. I'm here to let you know that, first off, our PAX panel went great. Thanks to everybody who came out to see it. You're going to get to hear it in just a second if you weren't there. But one quick thing to let you guys know. Unfortunately, at the place, they had a little recording trouble with us, meaning that the folks who were working PAX, who were, very nice and very helpful, we really appreciate them, but they couldn't record the podcast for us through their sound system as we had hoped before we came there. On the plus side, though, we ourselves were already recording in video form the same panel with our wonderful guest Mike Drucker, all about the cromulent world of Simpsons video games. So we had this video that I think had pretty good audio on it, all things considered. We had been promising you guys a PAX podcast. Mike Drucker did a really great job as our guest, and we wanted to share all of that with you, even though we couldn't get the direct recording through the venue. Fortunately, I think our recording worked pretty well, so that is what you're going to be hearing. If the audio is a little less good than what you heard in our previous live shows, that's why. But I still think you guys are really going to enjoy it and still get the gist of it. So please enjoy our PAX 2019 panel about fictional video games in the world of The Simpsons. And next week, look forward to our regularly scheduled episode where we're going to be talking about Mayor to the Mob. So press 787 to start this podcast now.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Welcome to the Talking Simpsons podcast panel where condemned criminals dig each other with rusty hooks. I am one of your hosts, the disgraced Bone Storm champion Bob Mackey, who's here with me over here.
Hi, I'm Mike Drucker, and I'm the guest today.
Yes. And who else do we have?
Larry the Loser Speedrunner, Henry Gilbert. Hello.
And this is our PAX Live 2019 live show, everybody.
Woo!
And the topic for today is the cromulent world of fictional Simpsons games.
You want excitement? Just stand up your stockings!
Yes.
And in case there's any confusion, we won't be talking about real Simpsons games, so if you're a Bart versus the World super fan, you must leave now. In fact, just leave now if you're here, because I hate that game so much.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
We'll save you time talking about there were no good Simpsons games after the arcade games.
Yes.
Done.
It all ends in 1991. But yeah, because The Simpsons debuted in 1989, there was a new medium to make fun of, and that was video games. And they've done it so much over the past 30 years. We'll be going over the first 10 years of the show's video game parodies. But joining us is Mike Drucker, and he writes for the TV.
Yeah, clap for me!
And also used to write for the video games.
I used to write for Nintendo. I was in the localization department. I worked on Kitty for Uprising.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, right? Well, Mike, behind the scenes as a comedy writer, have you ever written a fictional video game into something?
I haven't. I wish I had that ability to. I've pitched video games I've worked on more than one show where I was like, we should do a VR experience, and everyone's like, no. So that's about as far as I've had with writing a fake video game.
What's like the gamer literacy in most writers' rooms? Like these days, pretty good?
I think a lot of TV writers, especially with our generation, like a lot of them play games, but they're not necessarily in-depth fans of games. So they'll be like, yeah, I have an Xbox and I'll play FIFA, but they're not like huge deep fans, or their knowledge ends at like 1997, where it's like, they're like, my favorite game is Final Fantasy VII. You're like, have you played any since then? No, I became an adult. So it's like, you don't get as many people, but I love video games.
People become adults. No one in this room, right? Yes.
Losers.
We're going to see that in our clips where in the very beginning of these clips, it's a very boomery take on video games from the boomer writers. It is very much those damn video games kind of take. But as we get into the Bone Storm era, it is the Gen Xers, the cool Gen Xers who are actually playing the damn video games.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to be going through the first 10 seasons of Simpsons to see how much it grew from jokes written in 1989 to all the way to 1998. And the systems kind of grow with them, and you can see their literacy grow with time. The first one they didn't do any in the shorts, so because I think that was just all Matt Groening's childhood.
Yes.
He didn't play video games, so. But then the very first fake video game in The Simpsons was in the 6th episode, Moaning Lisa, which is mainly about depression, but there's about 4 minutes of video games in there.
We used to have all of the clips from this Slugfest game in this package, and I think it's about half the episode.
Yes, yeah. So we'd be here all day watching those clips, which would be fun, but we unfortunately had time limits. So, but yeah, so Slugfest, it was the first clip for Moaning Lisa. Let's give that a watch.
It's just that I couldn't concentrate without the Colonel Racket. Lisa!
So this episode invented fatalities 3 years before.
Yeah. It envisions a Punch-Out that's 2-player, which didn't exist until the 2009 Wii Punch-Out game. And yeah, Slugfest, you can tell that they started with the idea of like, Bart's better at Homer at some game, and they just worked backwards from there.
Right. Also very of that time, very boomer idea that you still use the joystick and button.
Yeah.
This one button does it all, folks.
Yeah. It's you can see the set-top box in the other shots too, and it's totally an Atari. Like they didn't learn a game system after Atari. Though clearly the artists played Punch-Out. Like that background there, that is the audience in Punch-Out.
Yeah.
And also, similar to Punch-Out, they have, in that it's Mario who's the referee. They have a similar guest character cameo. Yeah, that's Akbar and Jeff. Or Jeff. It could be Akbar or Jeff. And they figured out how to do player characters years before they were ever in a video game.
That's why it's lacking the casual racism that made us love Punch-Out.
And yeah, the joke is like, what if a video game was this violent?
I think most of the early parodies are, the joke is, what if someone actually made this game, and now we have advanced far beyond the parody.
Right. I do remember, this came out when I was, I think, 4, and I distinctly remember seeing this because I already loved video games, but I remember being so scared by this. Like, just the idea of, like, in a video game being like as a 4-year-old being like, he killed him and he danced on his grave. Like, totally missed the joke entirely, like I did for the first 3 years of The Simpsons as a child. It was just horrible, like, I was scared.
I think a common theme in these early clips is going to be decapitations, too. Is that right, Henry? There's
there's a number of decapitations in it. It's, I think, too, you'll see in a lot of the early ones, their favorite joke was the game over screen.
Yeah.
That was their favorite thing. I think they, in most cases, thought of the game over screen first and then worked backwards from it. And this was also the episode where they first went to Noiseland Arcade, which I did like that they made sure to show that there was an arcade version of Slugfest and a home version. That felt very informed to me. Yeah, that's also, when they go to Noiseland Arcade, you get to see in the background a game they never play, but Robert Goulet Destroyer.
Yes.
The costume.
It used to not be tasteless before he was destroyed. It's not
it's sad. At least he got to be on The Simpsons before they destroyed him. The next one they did right after that was in season 2, first episode of season 2, Bart Gets an F, where they also used one of the background gags from Noiseland Arcade in the first season to joke about escape from Grandma's house. Yeah.
Just a couple more things, and I'll hit the books.
Bart put in a $500 bill.
I never got that many tokens at Aladdin's Castle for a 5. Yeah, the Escape from Grandma's House again, the shotgunning your grandma, that just is normal now. You wouldn't bat an eye on it. I don't get the point of that game, though.
Yeah, I feel like every one of these games will be saying is at the Indie Showcase booth.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there has not been a Simpsons game jam for things like this on Itch.io somewhere. There's a version, like 10 versions of this in a message board thread somewhere. But this is a weird also Mr. Burns gender swap character.
Oh, yes, yeah. It's Mater Burns. It's his 140-year-old mother. Yeah, I think it seems like a single-screen game, too, of just... or also it reminds me of like a LucasArts adventure game or Sierra adventure game of just trying different things. But the difficulty level of most of these ones seems a little unfair to Bart, though I think that's just coin munchers. That's how they were then. It's also so weird to see high scores on these things. Like that again really dates it. But I think the artists really do such a great job of like making up arcade cabinet art, like perfect arcade.
That's a good Atari style font too.
And the really great like Bart's like slap of the joystick when he walks away. There's some really creative gameplay animation there. Okay, so the next one after that is Touch of Death, which that comes from season 2 production, but season 3. And this one, I had to check the dates because I always remembered it as a Mortal Kombat parody, but it is not.
Hey, you and your little Brooks. The hell is this?
You can spot Robert Bouleta's story in there. This is one of the rare ones where Bart wins in the video. He pretty much always loses at arcade games. But yeah, Touch of Death, that gag came out like, that was in 1991, probably written in like late 90, I bet, or early 91. So it's like a year or two before Mortal Kombat comes out. But Mortal Kombat was hardly the first game to have like a Bruce Lee clone.
Yeah. So it's sort of like Double Dragon-y, Kung Fu-y kind of game.
The Touch of Death seems really OP. I feel like, is that like a specialty thing that you charge up?
Yeah, a lot of these games are missing a UI too.
That seems a lot harder to animate, all those buttons. But yeah, Touch of Death has its own button. It's like the uppercut button in classic Punch-Out at the arcades. So the next one after that was in season 3. Now that one does not have a name. We're just going to call it Hyperspace.
What do I do? What do I do?
Right, joystick to the left.
Yes, move them. What that joystick? Wait, where's the hyperspace?
We're going to the station, huh?
I know what? I thought I was this guy. Oh!
Game's over, Grandpa.
I got down on the floor for this.
I like that every game we're saying you could tell when the writers stopped playing video games.
About 10 seconds in.
Right.
But this is a weird mix of a game because that's clearly Missile Command at the bottom.
Yeah.
But then above it's asteroids. So I'm confused by the UI as well in this.
5 out of 10.
Though they're back to Atari as well. Nobody has an NES in there. I think it's all these childless writers who don't have an NES system.
What they played in their Harvard dorms in 1978.
Yeah, the sentiment of I got down on the floor for this. That's a pre-wireless gaming thought there. And though that comes from season 3 in Lisa's Pony, and that was very much when the writers, Algie and Mike Reese, they really were about like filling out space with people watch something on TV, though this was like a rare time of people play something on TV. I don't know where that hyperspace button is. There's one button on the controller.
It's like the Vita, it's under the controller.
I just hope somebody got fired for that blunder. Also it's on the same console as Slugfest, which like it must be a way earlier game than Slugfest had the graphics of that quality.
It's a first gen game.
So the next one is from another Season 3 one. They were doing a lot in Season 3 of video games. This is from Radio Bart's Larry the Looter. And we also get to see the Simpsons versions of Chuck E. Cheese.
Hey, later, okay? Hey, why don't you go bug your parents?
Ooh, Larry the Looter. All right, spin it to the man.
Doesn't that basically happen in Link's Awakening? Like when you see
Oh, yeah!
Is that in the Switch version? The decapitation of Link?
All this claymation blood going everywhere. Well, I mean, that's Mario, too. They just drew in there. Another Mario cameo. Larry the Looter, it presupposes like Grand Theft Auto way before. Like, this was early 92 in this era.
I guess it predicts crime video games and Italian stereotypes. Violent Italian stereotypes. Watch out, Larry, he's Italian.
Though the sound effects of stealing the stereo and stuff, that's totally on Pac-Man. Like, that's like the sound of eating a pretzel or whatever in Pac-Man. Though I don't see the point of that game. Are you supposed to jump over that guy, or are you just supposed to put in another quarter after that?
I think you like tell him you have a wife and kids so he doesn't shoot you.
And just run the other way. No, at least it does like count how many points you got over time, and that it racks it up. I also thought this was like a reference to the LA riots, but those came like months after this era. So
I also like the concept of Mario defending a fruit stand with a shotgun.
He doesn't know you shoot people when they're running away from you. That's legal.
Also, with Chuck E. Cheese having game that violent, I think that's also part of the joke.
Well, it's fun, like in simpler times, this is what, a 28-year-old parody or 27-year-old parody?
Yeah.
The joke is, what if a video game was violence?
I think, and also with like, the scolds have been saying like, oh, video games inspire all this violence and crime, so here's one that is directly telling Bart to commit crimes, and Bart's reaction, stick it to the man, is the like, Joe Lieberman's greatest fear. But I guess gameplay-wise, this is more like a Double Dragon type game, I guess, or like a beat-em-up. I think, at least for the point-grabbing stuff. He doesn't grab any chicken, but again, like, they wouldn't know that. Gross chicken jack. This also just feels like totally arcade stealing, like, difficulty spike of, like, how do you even get past this guy?
It's a little like Wreck-It Ralph, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Oh, yeah. You know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this might be directed by the director of Wreck-It Ralph, actually, Rich Moore. He was definitely there at the time working on the show. But all right, so the next one comes in broadcast season 4, but it's still left over from season 3, early 1992. And this one is a very specific parody. I think it's the first one that actually feels like somebody is basing this on a video game they played.
Yes.
Homer, can you write some lines with me?
Make Bart do it.
It'll just take a second.
No! Bart, while you're on your own little world, you forget that other people have problems too.
So that's his proprietary bowling handheld game. It's sort of like the Virtual Boy, because 20% of that library was bowling games, right?
At least 20%. They just drew a Game Boy. I mean, that's just the Game Boy. I'm surprised they got away with that. Normally they would have to change a certain amount of that to make it work. But though a Game Boy game with voice clips, that's...
That'd be impossible.
You couldn't fit one voice... If the game was just voice clip to game, you still couldn't fit one thing saying Gutterball. But you can see the back of it. It has like a switching... It is a cartridge switching out thing, so it's not even a dedicated machine. They, again, fired for that blood work, they should be. But this feels like a joke written by a guy who yelled at his wife while playing Tetris in bed. That's what it I mean, my parents were playing the Game Boy quite a lot at the time. It was hard to get the Tetris away from them.
I think what I'm most impressed by is the fact that it has that green monochrome screen. Like, that feels like something that you would miss if you didn't play a Game Boy.
It also has a dot matrix display right above the screen in tiny letters.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's and yeah, AMP, select start, it's all the right buttons.
The prop designer had an early lunch that day.
I mean, I appreciate the accuracy there. And yeah, just seeing this clip, it makes you feel pretty awful for Marge. But that's how you're supposed to feel that whole episode. It's she's Blanche Dubois.
The Simpsons will be right back.
Thanks very much for listening to our podcast live from PAX West in Seattle, recorded last weekend. And again, if you came out, thanks very much for your support. And you know, we're able to make trips like this and do these live show appearances thanks to the support of the folks at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. The Talking Simpsons Network is supported by tons of great patrons who, for $5 a month, help me and Bob keep this going. And they get tons of extras, like Patreon-exclusive podcasts for miniseries about the shows The Critic, Futurama, and King of the Hill, plus 24 exclusive interviews with folks who have been working on The Simpsons as early as the very first shorts. Not to mention it's supported by the $10 and up folks who get to hear our premium podcast once a month, What a Cartoon Movie, where me and Bob talk about a different animated feature film once a month, including Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Akira, and many more. Please check out all that stuff at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
But yes, the next one is also from season 4, from episode written by Conan O'Brien, New Kid on the Block, and we're back to the arcade parodies.
No, here comes a conservative judge. Think it's Henry. It's not working. All right, hit the change of venue button. Now. Oh, no, you're in Texas.
If I hit the reverse button one more time, I would have made it. Oh, Barney, I gotta go. See you around.
So if you listen to the music and look at the main character, this is the sequel to Larry the Looter.
Oh, yeah. It's clearly from the same creators. With a similar, like, political bent, too. Like, it's a very political game. I like, though I think, I feel like they wrote the joke originally in just a platformer about escaping from death row, but then they rewrote the dialogue to be all about remorse, pleading insanity, all the way through the legal system trying to get out of death row, not jump over guards. And that's like an early version of the Rich Texan there. It's like maybe he made the game and put himself in it.
But it has the big sort of punch-out arcade uppercut button as change of venue that you just slap your palm.
That's the big button. And then, I mean, the game, that's another one where it feels like they wrote the game over screen first and went backwards. Like, they reused the Larry the Looter music, but they did write like 8-bit chiptune of Yellow Rosa, Texas. I'm curious how they wrote or how they made chiptune music back then for this stuff. Do you think they just went to a band in town? Or?
I think it was next to the dog barking button on the Casio. Like, that sound fun.
And also interesting about the placement of this is at the, instead of in Noiseland, they are at the Quickie Mart. Where they're playing it is usually where the nuke game machine is, which is one of the most distracting props in the whole show. Like, if you ever see in the Quickie Mart, next to the cash register, there's a sniper game and nuke, just a big thing, a orange thing that says nuke. It really, like, draws the eye. So it's, but for this one moment, it replaces the nuke machine.
So Mike, as a comedy writer for television, does the nuke arcade game feel like a placeholder joke? Like, we'll come back to nuke.
It does feel like a placeholder joke, but now I like to headcanon it that it's one of those Soviet Russia arcade games that you read about. You just imported it.
Oh, boy.
The Quickie Mart Foundation wouldn't spend that much money.
I also like to imagine that the judge is using the hammer from Smash.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's there's not great hit detection there. Like, or is he just standing back from the hammer? Like,
should have edited in that music actually.
It seems like he's doing like Donkey Kong jumps over people, so it seems kind of like DK. But the next one, so that's the last one of the Algene and Mike Reese years. They were very much about arcades. I think Merkin, if you'll see in his 2 ones, he was much more interested in the violence than just the arcade scenario of it. Though the first one is actually a very non-violent game.
I think if Telltale bought the rights to that.
It's the first dialogue tree. I can't believe it was there. Mike, is Dinner with Andre still the go-to joke of boring movie?
I don't think people. Show of hands, how many of you have remembered Dinner with Andre? Yeah, that's not most. No, it's definitely not boring movie. I don't know if there's like a boring movie thing right now.
Well, I guess maybe English Patient was the 90s. Like 80s was Andre, English Patient 90s. I don't know what anything was after that.
I stopped going to movies.
People just stopped watching movies. I think so.
The Dinner with Andre gag, I mean, it's a great gag on Martin too, that Martin is the one child who would want to play it. Like, no line for his name either, but I wonder what the fail state is in that. I would have liked to have seen the game over screen from there.
If Andre just storms out of dinner.
Well, Tell Me More is the only quote on it. The rest are like witty bon mot. So I wonder if that's randomly generated. But yes, while Martin is enjoying that, Bart is playing Panamanian Strongman.
Simpsons begin the game, but not of the game.
Two Caucasian girls out of money in Sector 4. Good Lord, Red.
I'm sorry, you'll have to leave.
So it's hard to tell what Panamanian Strongman is supposed to be. Like, is it a Donkey Kong game where you play as Donkey Kong?
I have no idea.
I don't even see how you could win at that. Like, unless Bart really wasn't doing anything in there. For as focused as he was in front of his joysticks, he didn't make a move.
Did you notice that in the shot he's not holding anything in his hands?
Yes. It's a magic joystick game with you just hold your hands over it. Though it also, I mean, the way he's holding it, it looks like it's a twin joystick game, but then later you see it's just one joystick. So maybe he's gonna like jam his hand on the other one.
I'm gonna be honest, my Dinner with Andre seems more fun of the two.
Yeah.
It's less war on drugs propaganda either.
Trenchant insight. That doesn't work on Panamanian Strongman. I mean, that gag there is also, I mean, it's about Manuel Noriega. That's the gag, which, I mean, it's extra funny that I feel like that's an extra gag there too, that H.W. Bush is kicking him when they were pals until they were not pals.
Yeah, and some writer had to be in an arcade because that was the era in which every game would have the blue splash screen, winners don't use drugs, signed by the department of the FBI's head or whatever.
Their lead guy, their lead jerk. Yeah, that's...
You'll save us.
No, it's even better to have H.W. Bush like kick a corpse on screen. I really like that.
Maybe little grunts.
Though that by the time this episode aired, like he was out of office too. So I think that shows the game was made a few years earlier. So Bart's going retro with this Northland arcade, and. Also, they don't realize if you run out of money at the arcade, you walk around and then feel in the coin slot things to see if anybody left one. I think that maybe happened once for me. This warned me to not say out loud I was out of money. But though also, I never went there unattended. My mom would have just said, "Okay, we're out of money. You're gonna go." She would be the squeaky voice teen in that scenario. One more thought I had about the Panamanian Strongman is that the art on the cabinet has Uncle Sam there too. I wish we had seen the stage where you fight Uncle Sam, like a fist fight between Panamanian Strongman and Uncle Sam.
That's in the pie making level.
That couldn't make it onto the NES, that one. So the next one, we just know it by name, but it definitely comes from the Mortal Kombat Panic era in Season 6.
You're one of those, they'll call me a chicks, huh? Sorry about my unenlightened brother. He will make the next few hours a living hell.
Oh, I don't know. See this part?
Disembowel 4, the game where condemned criminals dig at each other with rusty hooks.
Do a little housework and you can play for 5 minutes.
No way. Yes.
See, Lisa, males aren't hard to tame. They all follow their idiot cartridges.
Is that a Neo Geo cartridge?
It's an extra long cartridge.
Yeah.
For extra violence.
You can see the concave thing at the top for an NES thing, though. On NES, I don't think you could even portray disemboweling if you tried. Like, it just doesn't have the color palette for it. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely from they're making a joke about Mortal Kombat now, but through Disemboweler 4, which it also sounds a lot like Escape from Death Row, honestly.
Yeah, and I guess the joke is they're heightening Mortal Kombat, but then, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years later, there was Manhunt, which was kidnapped criminals digging each other with rusty hooks. So
that hook doesn't look too rusty on the box art there. I gotta thumbs down on box art, but. Also, Bart playing the typical gamer of hating women. He's pretty good. I'm kidding. That's
none of those people are here. That's never been known to be true.
But I think by the time I saw this gag, I was being a little, as a 13-year-old, I at least was thinking, like, they don't play NES games anymore. Boo. Like, I noticed that they got it wrong. That should have been a Genesis card, but I guess they wouldn't even know what a Genesis card looked like, the writers, I suppose. And yeah, I love Bart breaking as he looks at the game. Like, that's such good animation. Like, just his just so quickly shattered.
I like him reciting the tagline because he's not actually reading any text on the screen. He's having an out-of-body experience. He's remembering the tagline for the game.
Yeah, well, as we'll see in a later clip, he is very programmed by commercials, so he remembers all of the ads for it. Yeah, it should. Honestly, that should just be the game box. But so do you think that the babysitter, that she owns the game and brings it to everything she babysits at, or did she rent it just for this? I would think if she's babysitting a lot, it is a useful tool to have to break rowdy boys.
I just want her to be a fan of the Disemboweler series.
Yeah, I think maybe the trick is she's better at it than him. I would have liked that scene. But
she's a Jeffrey Dahmer man. Oh, don't owe that.
So those are the only two from the Dave Merkin seasons of 5 and 6. He didn't do a ton of game stuff, I think, but the next season was the ultimate Simpsons game episode, I dare say. And I think it is because, like, Bill Oakley, we've talked to him, if I may name him. No, but
We've had a meal with him.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid.
I watched him eat a burger just like he does on Instagram. But he talked about how he didn't grow up playing games, but when he became an adult with comedy writer money, that's when he splurged on video games and was playing a ton of them. So I mean, is comedy writer money buy you a lot of video games, Mike?
Simpsons residual money buys you a lot of video games. No, comedy writer, yeah. Yes it does. There's nothing funny about that, but I don't have children. I'm gonna fucking say for that.
But yes, the first one for Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein season. This is a dual commercial here for an unnamed game in a game we all remember.
want excitement? Just think of your studies! Baby, Bouncer, I gotta help! Young man, it is time to use a little word called please.
And in 5 minutes, there'd be a very similar commercial airing in 1995.
Yeah, well, yeah, they really captured the play it loud style of commercial there. Like, not just with the extreme catchphrases. Santa Claus is more like a Slim Jim commercial than a play it loud commercial. Maybe that is supposed to be Randy Savage guessing in that, but also it takes the Nintendo style too of it is an ad talking shit about another video game and saying, look at how shitty this game is, our game is way better.
And I've watched this episode 1,000 times, and only in doing research for this panel did I notice the Goros have 6 arms instead of 4, so they're better Goros.
Maybe that protects them on a copyright thing. But then again, they just drew Liu Kang there. Like, that just was.
Well, technically they just traced over Bruce Lee when they drew Liu Kang. So.
Yeah, I suppose so. They've got covered there. So in that game, do you think the first game, the unnamed game, do you play as a tank? Like, can you choose that?
It looks like it's a sequel to that arcade game. What was it, Death Touch?
Oh yeah, Touch of Death. Yeah.
Death, yeah.
And this is before fighting Vipers, where you unlock the Daytona car to fight as. So
just a year, yeah. They predicted that too. I gotta give it to them on that unnamed game. Like, they really captured the finish-in animation as well, which seems to show like somebody must be playing as that tank if it's doing the finish-in animation, I think. And the controllers too, finally somebody learned what a Genesis was as well. Like, those are straight up Genesis controllers. Though it's a cartridge-based system, which in '95, I guess, most you maybe have a PlayStation, but most kids are still playing on that.
Do we want to talk about how nice that kid's house was?
That was like the McAllister mansion.
Yes, yeah. Those Home Alone kids, they deserve to be robbed.
I agree. Watch the movie again. The criminals are right.
Like, their house is like a hotel.
Yeah. Like, well, you're gonna have to stay in the 17th bedroom, Kevin. I'm sorry. I mean, that's commercial houses. You want it's an attainable dream of kids, I think, to get to see, like, oh, they have a fancy place too. Though that, one thing they didn't get right about that Play It Loud commercial, a girl was playing a video game in that.
That would not be seen on television.
Yeah, no way. They on your Retronauts podcast about the evolution of video game ads, you really noted that in about like 84, 85, they stopped having moms and sisters play games in those commercials.
Well, I mean, occasionally there'd be a mom, but she would like look in from the kitchen and say, "Oh, you men," and then walk back to her cookies or whatever. I don't know.
Or like an old grandma who's like pointing like the mom in the Fresh Prince.
And then I love like snap into the excitement and just bam, shoots a bone storm right to the other game, destroying the game. It's like
destroying so very similar.
Yeah. Well, this has blood dropping everywhere, and I mean the background, like that's the pit of death stage from Mortal Kombat as well. Like they really captured that. Though again, another thing they got wrong: you can't play as Goro at all in those games. He's unplayable mid boss. I think. I mean, if you had a game genie, you could play as him. Sure. Yeah. Sure. But Bart's reaction, like they knew exactly how well to advertise it to 10-year-old boys there, as you can see. They even captured a real game with like 10 two-player stuff in it. Though later we'll see, like for as advanced as this game is, you can only enter up to 8 letters on your name, up to Thrill-Ho, not full Thrill-House. But Bart is bedeviled at all turns trying to get this game. He tries to steal it even in one of the classic scenes of being talked to by all of his video game pals. But that leads to a very heartfelt story. It's one of B and Bob's favorites as two mama's boys. We really love that one. But yeah, once Bart goes through a whole journey, he thinks he's getting the game he asked for.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants. You Thanks, Mom.
Oh.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
This
Welcome
actually.
to Lee Carvello's Funny Channel. I am Carvello. Now choose a club. You have chosen a 3-wood. May I suggest a putter? 3-wood. Now enter the force of your swing. I suggest feather touch. You have entered power drive. 7, 8, 7 to swing. Ball is in. Parking lot. Would you like to play again? You have selected no.
The meme, I think, is maybe 2 years old now, but I love the meme of Bart opening the gift and it's Battleborn and not Overwatch.
This actually kind of happened to me. My grandparents got me an original Game Boy when it came out, and I was so excited. And they had that and a game that was wrapped up, and I was like, oh, it's Mario Land. I got fucking Mario Land, and it was golf. And I almost did the same thing. And this episode came out after that, but I remember being like, thank you so much. And they were like, let's watch you play golf. And I was like, I don't want that.
Well, I think Mario is on the cover of that game, too. He's like golfing on the cover.
Yeah, but he ain't golfing in the game now.
No.
Yeah. That Arkanoid game too, they just said like, well, Mario's inside that pad. Alleyway, yes.
Use your imagination.
Mario's always there. He's every baseball player in baseball. That present face is that really captures it. And behind the scenes, like some clerk at a game store just lied to Marge who got rid of their stock of Lee Carvallo's putting challenge. And that didn't even come with a scoring pencil. Bart didn't even get that. But I said Lee Trevino, I mean, that's obviously who it's supposed to be. I think they did say they approached him for it, but he turned it down. He didn't get the joke.
Can we use your name for a video game nobody would want?
It's a weird reference to this old NES game, Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf, and that's why he's one of the 3 golfers I know about.
Fortunately, I was never gifted a golf game. So.
Well, I had Nintendo Power to tell me all about it. Tell me it was good.
It got their second highest score, 9 out of 10. So the command, let's really deconstruct the commands of Lee Carvallo's putting challenge.
Yeah.
One, are they playing this on a PC or is it one of those like the television dial pads? Because you have to press 787 to make the command. And like that, I mean, that's a great joke in and of itself because the main thing you do in a putting game is swing the club, but you have to press 3 buttons to swing that club. And then also, you mentioned to me before, Bob, like, this is a game called Putting Challenge. You shouldn't be able to pick other clubs than a putter.
You should not be off the green.
And this also seems to be the tutorial, too. Like, in most tutorials, they would force you to be like, no, you can't pick the 3-wood. Like, it's a broken tutorial in that way, but I also like I think they really captured a real gamer thing too of like you have this crappy game, it's your only game for Christmas, the most fun you can have is trying to break it, and that's what Bart is doing. Like going to using the full power drive. Like I gotta give it to them, they actually animated like in Mario Golf 64, they would not have animated such an extreme thing of landing in the bunker or going off the stage.
Although I would love to see in Mario Golf seeing the ball go to a Mario parking lot. What all those cards look like.
Shatter Toad's window.
Okay, Mario.
You Have Selected No is another of my just all-time favorites.
And the really have Power Drive.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like he's doing an imitation of Tom Kite, who was on the show around this time.
Yeah, it feels more like that, actually, than Tom Kite. Though I guess, I don't know what Lee Trevino sounds like, so I can't...
He's an Italian, from what I've heard.
Yeah, the Power Drive, okay, last thought too is that like he's talking during it, so that makes me feel like it's a CD-ROM game almost. Like the amount of conversation you get in it is pretty impressive too. Which, but yeah, also earlier in the episode they could rent from their comic book store, which like I don't know, the overhead on that just seems too much for a comic book store to rent video games.
I think a bunch of those just fell off a truck and he was there. He saw an opportunity.
So that was the Ultimate Video Game episode, but they still did a few more after that. This next one is from the Springfield Files, which is from the next season. It aired in early '97, but this episode is by Satellite Office that pretty much just wrote them all in 1995. So in a very 1995 episode, the Springfield Files, which is the X-Files crossover, that you will not see any X-Files characters in this next one. But this was a cute little gag. Waterworld, again, like, you know, Dinner with Andre is the most boring movie, and the jokes were that Waterworld was the most expensive movie of all time, which that is like that is so far beyond what an expensive movie is now.
I own Waterworld for the Virtual Boy. And
I'm
not doing a bit, real game for the Virtual Boy, and it is worse than what you saw on the screen.
Probably the game itself costs more than $40, I would think, or 40 quarters.
When the Virtual Boy came out, I was like 11, and I convinced my parents to let me use all of my childhood savings to buy it. And it wasn't the best idea, but I really committed to it for at least a month, pretending it was.
You have to believe that. Like, I mean, that's how console wars start. You can only have one system, so you have to boost for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Waterworld arcade game, that's a $10 game, which that's a lot. That's a lot of money. I like the imitation of Kevin Costner there. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a hard impression, but the game has something to do.
What is it supposed to be a parody of as a game? Like, is it like a Dragon Slayer parody where like you take one step and you die, or is it just a bad game?
That's a huge character for a video game too.
Yeah. It reminds me of Kung Fu or like a Neo Geo giant sprite game. I think the point maybe he uses up all his energy with one step, and so you have to re-energize him with another 40 quarters. But this gag though is so this was written by the folks who were writing the critic at the same time, and this is 100% an unused critic joke.
Yeah.
In the arcade too, you can see the Panamanian Strongman game in the background too at Old Noiseland. And I also have to say, Milhouse's pants can hold a lot of quarters. I'm impressed. So the next one is just one screen from Homer's Phobia, which it's the only gameplay of it, so I'm just going to show the screen here real quick. So that is Astro Blaster that Bart is playing there. It's a sit-down arcade machine that John Waters' character owns, and right off screen you're hearing Homer grumble that Bart is so near a gay man. But the Astro Blaster game, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the Star Wars sit-down vector graphics thing. So I think that's where they're pulling it from.
It's one of the bench-based video games.
Though you think John Waters' character is nice enough to set it to free play? I would hope so. He seems like a giving guy. And yes, we got, but that's all we got at Astro Blaster. The next one, though, that's the last fake game of the Oakley and Weinstein era. Now we come to season 9 and the start of the Mike Scully era, and we are back to an arcade fighting game.
There's an actual PC fighting game called Catfight.
I was just looking that up. Do you know who published it?
I do not.
Okay, it was published by the software branch of Vivid Entertainment.
Yes!
Oh.
Yeah!
A lot of knowing looks in this room. I just found out about it through this webpage. I don't know what's happening there. But yeah, I guess there was one in 1996.
Yep.
Ah, okay. Maybe it really. This was a late '97 episode.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't know about it. I do like the sexism of shoes.
Yes, yeah. They picked shoes as their stage for this fighting match. Yeah, I mean, this is a very sexist stereotype game, but, you know, let's look at the bright side. Bart is playing a game with female protagonists. Like, he's being very open-minded.
All representation counts.
Yeah. But this feels very, like, taken from Melrose Place at the time. Like, that feels where the gag comes from. And right after this, Bart reveals that the machine only takes dollars, which I really did like that joke because it felt like a parent on the staff realized, like, they had heard it from their kids of like, stupid dad, these don't take quarters anymore, games are dollars now. But that's also at the Quickie Mart. It's on the opposite side of Nuke though, so it seems like Apu invested in a new game. But this is by 97 though, and this is when polygonal graphics are there, but they're still doing digitized stuff. Like, I like the filter in general, the filter they put over their video games are really cool. And it works with 2D. I think, you know, they had problems in later seasons doing video game jokes because they can't do polygons, you know?
It's hard to fake in that style.
And that is definitely clear in the final game from the 10th season of Simpsons. This was the one when they did this joke that I felt old. Like, or I felt like, not old because I was 16, but I did feel like I was out of the demographic of The Simpsons they were referencing a game I felt was for babies.
It was also the last legal year you could make a joke about the movie A Cry in the Dark.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because it was, for about a decade and longer, it was TV writer shorthand for dead baby jokes. The dingo ate my baby joke, and the entire game is based around that joke.
Yes, yeah. But let's take a look from the season 10 episode, Lisa Gets an A.
Oh, you shouldn't be watching the Learning Channel. You need to take it easy. But I'm hardly learning at all. Why don't you play with one of Bart's video games instead? Hugh Gannon says they're the latest craze.
Ruby Stinker, you must find and devour the seven crystal babies. Drop the Dingery down!
I am so scared. This was supposed to go through the stupid door? I wonder what's in this glowing barrel. What? Nunchucks? Those aren't even Australian. Oh, great. So I'm dead now. Fine. I'm sick of this stupid game anyway. Yes, I am just 4 power lines away from an anti-gravity lock switch. Hope I don't run into that weird little troll. Hi, Lisa. I brought your homework. We have to read this. The Wind in the Willows? It's about a toad and a badger and a moral. I brought on mine. Is this my house? No, you live in a different house. Choo 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 choo.
Rule down under us.
We'll see about that, Mike.
Uh-oh, she dropped the book.
Oh, man.
Dramatic book dropping.
I refuse to believe that Lisa had not read Wind in the Willows before the assignment. But yes, that's Dash Dingo of Crash Bandicoot reference there. Though they reused that dingo from a previous Dingo Junction fashion store bit. But they can't do polygons, but the isometric viewpoint at least like captures it pretty well. Then they pretty much drew a PlayStation, which that did impress me. I mean, this aired in late '98, so PlayStation was pretty established by that point. But still, it took them till like '96 to finally draw Genesis controllers. So that's but it's a wireless PlayStation. You can see it just sits on her bed, not connected to the TV. And also, Lisa doesn't know how to press pause. She's like pressing down.
Pressing no buttons.
Yeah. The crystal. I mean, the collecting crystals. That's straight out of Crash. Also, the Paul Hogan head is totally Dr. Cortex too. Like it does feel. I think the difficulty curve there seems pretty harsh. Like the first level, you just get hit with like 3 enemies at once. So maybe Lisa didn't know the attack button at that point. But there was one more scene from Dash Dingo that is very odd to me. That it's hard to really figure out.
Oh, I really need one more day, Mom. I think the germs are regrouping. Not the record, though. It has got coffee in a short step. Can wait till you to heat up the syrup?
So that's Crash Team Racing that she seemingly is playing. But this aired in late '98, a year before Crash Team Racing came out on the PlayStation. So I don't know where they got that from. Like, that would have been drawn mid-'98 at most. They wouldn't have been advertising Crash Team Racing. So it's just such a mystery to me where they got that from. Like, that's maybe they drew him into a Mario Kart screen or something. But it's just really crazy. I cannot figure out where they got that from. But the episode really captures how awesome it feels to lie about being sick and play video games.
Yeah, it is great.
Yeah.
There's also no memory card in that system, so Lisa's just fucking going on.
Yeah. That's why she hasn't stopped for 3 days.
That's a very tall PlayStation 2.
Well, also to be an accurate PlayStation by 1998, you should have that on the side because that's the only way to be playing it. That was from the NES all the way to the PlayStation era. They're really like Atari to PlayStation. And the series, would do so many more video games from there, but we only have time for 10 seasons.
There's 20 more years worth of clips. Lock the doors.
We've canceled the next 3.
Yes.
That is the end of our panel. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Mike Drucker, for being our special guest.
What are you up to these days? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike Drucker or Instagram at Mike Drucker is dead, and I will talk about what stand-up shows I'm doing and so forth.
And you have a number of panels here too.
Yeah, I have a number of panels here. I'm doing 2 Retronauts panels on Monday. I'm doing Dreamcast retrospective and Super Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night retrospective. And tonight I'm doing the kind of funny tournament thing that I will lose instantly in.
And we, of course, are Talking Simpsons. Thanks for coming to our panel.
Yes!
And we're at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, and we'll be selling that poster outside after the show for $10 cash, and we'll all sign it if you want to. So
yes.
If you want one, we got a whole bunch of them here. Yeah, the artist is here, she can sign it too.
Yeah, thank you, Nina.
This has been great, folks. All right, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
We'll all say hi to you outside.
Yeah.
I'd like your attention, please.
Quiet, Bart! This is my big moment. Bart the Bloody Pulp Simpson is on the ropes. He is hoping I'll put him out of his misery. Well, you're in luck, Bart. Here comes my right. Oh, no! My game! My game! I could have beat the boy. Marge, how could you? I was so close.
I'm sorry, but this is more important than that silly loud game.
You're right, Mom. I just like to use this occasion to announce my retirement, undefeated from the world of video boxing.